Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's System Admin webinar for November. My name is Stephen Nasty, and I'll be instructing you guys through today. So today's admin webinar is going to be covering Commission Management System, uh, really the entire module, just to help you automate your commission calculations. So some of the main things we're going to be talking about today is just kind of the variety of the commission calculations that are supported with our application and the module, the basics of the commission plans that are created and how they kind of set up and how they work, how to assign commission plans to your users, and then how to also review the estimated commissions within the application. So basically going to see how to see the commissions on a job. So if at any point you have any questions throughout the webinar, go ahead and just type them right into the chat, or raise your hand to be more than happy to answer them as best as I can. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen here. I apologize, I am using one monitor today, so bear with me. So let me go ahead and share my screen. There you go. Perfect. Awesome. So without much further ado, this is our commission system. So everything that I'm showing you today is, of course, just as a general disclaimer on our demo sales environment. So basically, that means there's just going to be a lot of test-sounding names. There might be some things that may not look like a normal live system, but just like to give that disclosure there. But our commission system setup can be found under Tools. So Tools, Commissions. Let me just close out of some of these other guys so you can see it. And with commissions, it's very important to know that you typically read commissions from right to left. And the reasoning for that is every single tab contains a component that ultimately slots together for your commission system. And it'll make a lot more sense as I'm going through this, but think of it as you're creating your commission system, you're creating like a sandwich. To make your sandwich, you need to have your bread, your deli meat, your cheese, your lettuce, tomato, sauce, whatever it is. So you're basically taking this step by step, piece by piece, and assembling your commission sandwich, so to speak. Um, so to start, we're just going to go through creating a commission plan at a very baseline, so you can see the basics and get a little more familiar with the interface first and foremost. And also, if I'm a little slow on answering questions, like I had mentioned before, I'm only seeing one screen today, so I'm just going to be flipping back and forth. So bear with me here. So with commissions, you would first start by clicking on this Add button. So by clicking on the Add button, this is how you would name your commission plan. So I'm not the most creative person in the world, so I'm just going to call this 2025 Cash Plan because that's my user, Johnny Cash. We'll go ahead and click on OK. So the plan will be added in to the system. And then what's the next step to do is you're working from right to left. So you have here rate plan configuration. So this is a totally optional field, but what rate plan configuration does is if you are working through your commission plan and you are seeing like sliding scales and things of that nature, this allows you to basically set up that sliding scale. So if I click on this edit pencil, I just want to show you one that's already kind of in use here. So what this works is you basically give the plan a name. You have a default percentage of payout. So you basically say your default, what it will always be, or your max. You can set a minimum amount of commission versus a max amount of payout. The percentage of, so what are you doing? The total percentage of is the total sale, GP dollars, GP for materials, RMR. What's the range type? Are you doing a GPM percentage? Are you doing a GP dollars, or how does that look? And then also there's a multiplier. So if you want to basically kind of go a little more advanced, you can do the multiplication. So with this example, we have a sliding scale of every 2-ish%, and it kind of goes a little bit higher, has additional payout of this percentage amount. So if you have a GP percentage and like a margin of 20%, you add 3% from the commission module. 22, 4, 26, 5, 28, 7, 30, 8, 35, 9.5. And then your sliding scale here will basically say, the way this reads is 35% awards the user with the maximum amount of commission. 9%, so 9.5 of the GP dollars is what it pays out. So to basically make this, you click on cancel. You would click on this little plus sign. We would give it a rate plan name. So we'll just call this 2025 sliding scale. We'll click on OK. We have our default amount, our max percentage. So we can just say that maybe we just wanted to just do 10%, make it easy. A minimum amount, so that's just a minimum amount of payout and a maximum amount of payout. What do we want to basically take this percentage of? Is a total sale, GP dollars, GP percentage, whatever you want to be. So maybe we'll just say GP percent. Range type. This is how we're setting this down here. GP percentage, GP materials, GP dollars. 9 times out of 10, GP percentage is what people use just because it's the easiest to track. And multiplier, we'll do no multiplier here. So with this, now every commission plan is different, every company is different. What you're basically saying here is that how am I dictating the profit versus the payout? So a lot of people will do either, just start with a base percentage. So let's say I'm starting at 10%, I'll start off at 12% profit, pays a commission of 8%. 14 pays 10. And so on and so forth. So each system works a little differently. Think of this as just a sliding scale to help kind of adjust your commissions to say, if it's not a linear payout, then you can have a sliding scale like this. So we'll just do a couple more here so you can see it. And we'll just set the maximum of 20% margin with a 16% payout. Again, granted, this is very much just to show you guys how it looks. But this is just a way to add that level of complexity to your commission plans. So we'll click on save with that. Perfect. So once that's done, and again, and this is totally optional. So if you don't have a sliding scale or the way you handle commission is very cut and dry, you don't need to worry about this. If in that case you don't worry about the sliding scale, you would then go to this payment configuration tab. So payment configuration, how this works is you have payment configuration and you have rule configuration. Payment configuration basically is saying, what do I pay you? And the rule configuration is basically telling you what is the trigger. So if you're familiar with our approval systems, the rule configuration is basically like the exception to basically say, if the sales price is greater than this, if the GP dollars is greater than this, or at this number, pay this. So we'll set up the payment configuration, and I'll click on one of these so you can see it. So like, for instance, this one I picked randomly is, if the GPM is less than 50%, this is what the trigger is. So we'll cancel out of that, and we'll click on new. I want to just call this, again, we'll keep the same theme here, 2025 payments configuration. The rate plan, so if you have a sliding scale, you can basically incorporate that into the payment configuration. The rate plan of the sliding scale will ultimately supersede the payment configuration. So if I select the 2025 sliding scale, I already have the payouts. I don't need to worry about setting any of these guys below. But if I didn't have anything, you'd click on these little dashes here. You would say, okay, let's go through the payment settings. What is the type? So you have two options. You have a percentage of, and you have a direct. So the percentage of is basically saying this commission is going to pay a percentage of X, whether it's sale, GP, whatever it may be. Direct grays out everything else and just says, I'm paying a flat fee of $500, whatever it is. The direct one, generally speaking, I rarely see that one used. I think we maybe have like a handful of clients that would use that for like a per user basis. But the more common one is percentage of. So percentage of, fairly simple here. We're just going to say percentage of. We would select the percentage. So let's just take like an odd one here. I'm just going to say 11 and a half. Of, we have total sale. We have RMR, GP dollars, GP materials. It's kind of cut out there just because of my resolution. Materials, labor, MPB, and the list goes on and on and on. I would say most of the time it's either GP percentage or total sale. So we'll select total sale. So right now the way this is reading is pay 11.5% of the total sale. You can set a minimum amount and a maximum amount, which basically just gives you a guideline to say, if the sales rep sells, a $100 job, then we're not going to pay commission off of that. So if you have a minimum amount of a percentage or you have a maximum amount, then you can set that parameters here. But in this case, we're just going to say it's a flat 11.5%, and we'll pray that I don't have this set up on the left-hand side. Perfect. So once that's done, the next part here is, let's just say we have the bottom piece of the bread, we have the chicken cutlet, and now we're adding in the lettuce and tomato part of the sandwich if we're doing the commission sandwich here. The rule configuration is what the trigger is. So, and again, this is going to be confusing, but I'm going to piece it all together, I promise. We'll click on add. We'll give it a name, just call it 2025 rule configuration. What this is basically saying is, okay, I know to pay 11.5%, but how do I do that? Or what's the trigger for it? So this is basically telling you, you set your type. So to keep it simple, we're going to say sales. We're going to select our operator, whether it's between, greater than or equal to, less than, whatever it may be. So we're just going to make this as easy as possible and say sales has to be greater than or equal to, and we're just going to call this $1,500. You have a time frame that allows you either say during. So what this does is this allows you to do a commission plan for a temporary period amount of time. So kind of one of the bullet points we had talked about beforehand is just seeing what's available for a commission plan. What this will do is this allows you to say, I'm going to have this commission system only active during a specific quarter, for the year, for a particular month, or for a 30, 60, 90 type of window. I wouldn't say it's used too often, but it is something that we have available for everybody. Or the simplest answer is job. That just means is that this is a per job basis. So every job you launch will always follow this rule set regardless of the time frame. We also, on the bottom here, have additional triggers as well. So if you want the sales price, like, let's just say this for the basic information. In this case, the sales price is greater than or equal to $1,500, trigger the approval. You can also add some additional layers to it as well. So on the bottom, you have type of sale. These will all be your customized options in your data list, your job types, or any sort of packages. So these kind of undergone some changes fairly recently. So if you have any packages now, if the system will say look for a package, you have, if you want to say like has to be $1,500 and includes this package or this item or this job type, you can cause the system to trigger it. If you don't have anything selected here, that's okay. It'll just basically take this plan. So once we click on save, now we have a sliding scale if we wanted to use it. We have a payment configuration of we're paying 11.5% of the total sale. In the rule configuration, we now have a trigger. We now have anything above $1,500. So really, it should look a little bit like this. If sales is greater than or equal to $1,500 on the job, pay 11.5% of the total sale with no minimum or maximum. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense there. It's something that commissions start off kind of a little bit all over the place, but you have to kind of assemble them. To use a sandwich analogy, you kind of just putting them layer by layer and just kind of putting them all together there. So once that's done, and you have your rules and your payment configuration, the next thing you would do is select your rule clusters. So what a rule cluster does is a rule cluster will take your rule configuration and your payment configuration and conjoin them together. So we have a whole bunch of these configurations here, which is great. And something to also keep in the back of your mind with your commissions is that whenever you make them, they exist within your system unless you delete them. So you can always reuse them, you can recycle them, you can use whatever you need to use them moving forward. So we're just going to make a new cluster. So we're just going to list 2025 cluster plan. And once that's added in, we would select our predefined rule. So we're going to look for our 2025 rule configuration, click on the green plus. So we're having an issue with that. Let's just scroll down here and see if this one gives us any issues. Interesting. Okay, 1 second. Let me close out of this, relaunch it. Let's just see if that resolves it. Okay, so let's just find our 2025 cluster plan. Okay, perfect. Oh, it's just like a visual thing. Okay, so we added in, and just if you didn't quite catch that, we selected our rule, clicked on the green plus, predefined payment, found it, green plus. So now all this is saying is exactly how we were reading it before. Our predefined rule is that for all sales greater than or equal to $1,500, we'll pay 11.5% of the total sale. Now, once that's done, we would go to our general options. The only thing that I would say that's important to know here on the general options is that you can have this. Oh, let me go ahead and select this really quick. You have the ability to charge to a customer. So some of our users, what they'll do is they will charge the commission to a customer instead of it just coming out of the organization. So if you want to do that, you would just say down here where these payment terms are, you would say this, there's a little section here that says charge to customer after blank. If you just change this to a penny, what this will do is this will say, anything that's over a penny in terms of commission charged to the customer. Some people will have it set to a certain threshold to say, if the commission exceeds, $1,000, the customer pays for it. I would say the bulk of our users don't charge the customer for a commission, but that's entirely up to you guys. If you do charge the customer, you have the ability to do cost or sell, so it's up to you. You can add it to either bucket. And once that's done, you can click on save. So now that the commission plan is set up, what we would do next is go ahead and assign it to a user. So we can go ahead and close out of the commission system setup. Go to our system configuration. Let's find my user here. So we'll find Johnny Cash. Click on edit. Go to commissions. And under commissions, there's going to be this commission plan and then any sort of default rates. So this whole section down here, that's grayed out. I would say don't really pay too much attention to this. This is going to be refactored away in the kind of the future builds here. So really you just want to focus on this top button here, this commission plan. So you would select the commission plan from this dropdown. So it's basically done by time order of creation. So we'll find 2025 cash plan. The next thing to look at here is use commission plan rates versus use default rates. So we're going to want to make sure that always use commission plan rates. What that checkbox does, or that kind of radio button, what that does is it always will say, look to the commission plans options and pay it out that way. Whereas default rates, I think is really a legacy feature. I don't know if it necessarily does anything. So I know that if you have use default rates toggled on, it won't pay out for the commission. So always just make sure you're selecting the commission plan dropdown, and then the use commission plan rates radio button. So once that's done, you can click on save. Also on this screen, for any admins here that want to view other people's commissions, if you go ahead and search for your user, so same concept, Johnny Cash, click on edit one more time. If we go to people manager, and let's just expand all here, and let's just go to White Plains, for instance. I know it's going to have some data. If we expand White Plains, and we expand, let's just say, Lisa Mills, there is a checkbox here called commissions. So there's two requirements: outside checkbox if you want to be able to view their job, and then commissions on the inside checkbox. Once commissions is selected, this will allow you to have visibility over all of the user, in this case Lisa Mills, all of her commissions and her commission dollars on every job. The outermost checkbox gives you the ability to view their quotes. So this is basically like an admin right, I would say, so to speak, whereas this gives you additional layer. So outer, and then the inner checkbox for commissions. And you just do that for everybody that you want to have commission access for. So we'll click on save. And then lastly, if we go into any one of our jobs here, so I created a job ahead of time. So let's open this bad boy up. And we have above the commission trigger threshold, so we're above the $1,500, which is great. Let's go to our commissions and refresh our commissions. And let's just see if I did it, if I set it up right. So let's go back to our commission setup because it doesn't look like it's kicking in really quick. And let's find our cluster. Okay, perfect. It's there. Curious to see if that error we got maybe interfered with it somehow. So we have sales greater than or equal to $1,500. Let's just remove them. Let's just edit again. Let's just drop that. Let's edit again. Okay. Perfect. And let's just go through this one more time, just make sure everything looks okay. Paying 11.5% of the total sale. The rule configuration here. The sales are greater than or equal to $1,500. Time frame job. Okay, perfect. Let's go back to our user. Make sure everything looks okay here with Johnny. Okay, yeah, 2025 plan is all set and configured. Good to go. Now let's go back to the job. Search for our camera. I had 15 of those. Hopefully get us to our sell amount. Perfect. It's really strange. I don't know why it's not showing commission. Okay, let me try one more thing here. Sorry about that, guys. Let me just check one more thing. I don't know if that error message when I first got it maybe broke it in some capacity. Let's try changing this over to 2024. Let's see if this fixes. Okay, that one seemed to do the trick. So yeah, so I have to take a look at that 2025 plan. I'm assuming maybe something with that error message that popped up may have caused some issues with the calculation. But in this case, the commission that you're looking for would be in this commissions tab. So you would just have to click on refresh commissions. This is a user right. A lot of the times we have a checkbox that will automatically populate where it'll just on job refresh, whether you're adding in a new part, removing a part, whatever it may be, it'll automatically adjust the commission. Or we have the manual refresh commissions button up here, where what that does is when you're, it's just a manual process. We've noticed that when you have the kind of at will commission refresh, it will sometimes cause a little bit of a slowdown in the system. And generally speaking, that's because the system is basically running like a live scan of the database to say, okay, what was added, how much was added, and things like that. Where you click on refresh commissions, it'll gray out for like a couple seconds and then automatically do it there. So it's entirely up to you, but I think most of the time we'll recommend people just to have this refresh commissions button like this, so you're manually just refreshing your commissions. And that is the kind of how to take a look at it on the commission side of within the job. So if you're not looking at your own quote, this commissions tab will always be up here if you have that user right within the permissions for a people manager turned on. So once that's turned on, you can see other people's jobs commissions. Beyond that, guys, and I'll stop here for questions in a second. We also have the commission ERG. So ERG meaning URG, Universal Reporting Grid. And in here, this is where you're able to see all of your users' jobs and commissions that based off those quotes. So this is one of the tools that we have. You have your salespeople at the very top, all the users that you have access to. So I'll just select, Joe McCrane and Jack Shepard. I know they typically will have some data in for them. You have some filters here where you have one lost or void, so you can just focus on a couple different things. I'll focus on just the one jobs for now. You have your dates. So this is done quarterly. So you can basically see by default the current quarter, but you can also select past quarters as well. And then we have these payments down here, okay to pay, marked for pay, partially paid, fully paid. So if you want to have a payment tracker within WeEstimate, this is how we track it. And how that works is I have a couple jobs here that are selected. So we'll just take, maybe, Glenn's Garden CCTV, this one here. You have a very basic commission amount for $53.23. We have this little checkbox here that says marked to pay, okay to pay. What this means is when you have marked to pay, you can select this paid checkbox. And what that does is that will turn the color a little bit of a different scheme here. So basically we'll change the tint, basically saying you marked this as paid. So it's a nice little way just to track what is paid, what isn't paid. It'll also show you split as well. So if your organization does production splits or commission splits with other sales reps, so for instance, let's say Johnny Cash was working, side by side with, Joe McCrane, they took 50% each. This will show you the commission split of 50% each, what that commission value equals to, and then you're able to go in here and then mark it as paid. And there are some other tabs here as well. So by clicking on this little plus sign, you can see, some notes, what the plan is, what the description is, status change, whatever it may be. And at the top, you have just kind of a full range of, what the manager is, when the job was last opened, whether it was approved, the commission amount was owed, the invoices amount, which kind of integrates from the Sedona side of things. So this is a nice little tool that we have where if you want to track your payment structure and kind of what is paid and what isn't paid, you can go through your commission erg in WeEstimate to go ahead and do that. Awesome, guys. So I'm going to take a break here for any sorts of questions anybody has. I know that was very, very heavy. I apologize for the error that popped up with the kind of the commission calculation there. We just got 6.11, so it's there are some kinks with it still. So yeah, so I just wanted to turn it over. Any questions on anything that I covered today in terms of setting up the commission plans, the commission erg, assigning commissions to a user, as well as kind of going into the jobs and seeing the commission totals. Any questions on anything that I covered so far? Okay, looks good to go. Perfect. So that was pretty much everything I had to show today, guys. So thank you for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Give you guys back a half an hour of your day. So the next webinar that's coming up this month is next Tuesday, the 19th. It's going to be WeSuite tips and tricks. So this is one of our most popular webinars that we do. Generally speaking, it's a best practices type of webinar. So it's a nice little webinar that we do where it gives you some tips and tricks to look into within WeEstimate, just to help cut back on some time. Gives you a general overview of the opportunity and how to optimize it, a pipeline of our host of products, and then also a sneak peek of things coming down the road. I alluded to 6.11 today, but with that next webinar, hopefully we're trying to figure out if we'll have some beta things to show for you guys as well. There's a lot of stuff in development here, so we're going to try to show some of that next week as well. So also in addition to that, we do have our December webinar for admins coming up as well. To continue the theme of modules, December 10th is going to be on the automated approval module. So it's just going to be giving you kind of a run through like I did today, but giving you a breakdown of how to use it, how to assign it, and then how to kind of work through the commission plans and the approval plans and the kind of the configurations and things like that. So I really do appreciate your time today, guys. It means a lot. These will all be sent to all of the attendees for today, sent to your email. We also have a brand new YouTube page. So we have a YouTube site and a YouTube account. It's called WeSuite. If you want to follow that, I post all of the webinars onto our YouTube account. So if you wanted to check out the channel, we load, generally speaking, all of the webinars within 24 hours of when they were completed, and they'll be there permanently. We made that shift from the kind of giving these Dropbox links to YouTube. It's a little more secure, it's a little easier to access, and we don't necessarily have to worry about archiving older webinars. We can just have everything together on that site. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk soon.